Hello and welcome to a lesson on place value and names for numbers. So we're going to start with what we call a classification of numbers, but basically the digits that we see in our numbers. So the digits 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, these guys here, right? Those are the digits that we can put together to make numbers, okay? All the numbers that we can write, any possible number that we can write, even with decimals and fractions, all of them that include those digits make up what we call the real numbers, okay? So all of these numbers that we can make using those digits are this big group of numbers called the real numbers, okay? So all those numbers, again, real numbers. And then they break into a couple of like subgroups. So some of the real numbers we can write as fractions, and some of them can't. The ones that we can't, we would see as these weird, non-repeating, non-terminating decimals. Well, the ones that we can write as fractions, we call those rational numbers. So the rational numbers, again, some of the real numbers that we can write as fractions, they would go into that group. The ones that we can't, we would call those irrational numbers. Irrational numbers. Okay, and I'm not so hung up that you know all of this terminology right out of the gate, so I don't want you to get concerned with memorizing these things. They'll come up again later, but for now, just go with me, okay? So we have real numbers that we can write as fractions that we call rational. We have ones that we can't, which we call irrational. Now let's stay in that rational group for a second, the ones that we can actually write as fractions. If we actually take the fractional piece out, so when we're just looking at positive and negative whole numbers, then we have what we call the integers. So we have the integers as another subgroup. Again, these are the rational numbers that we can write as whole numbers, but they're positive and negative. Now, if we got rid of the negatives and we were just looking at 0 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on, then we have a group called the whole numbers. And then if we got rid of the 0, we just started with the counting numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. We call those the natural numbers. Now notice the circles are within one another, so that natural circle is in the whole number circle because all natural numbers are whole. And it's also in the integer and the rational and the real, so it sort of works like a Venn diagram. All of the natural numbers are whole numbers and integers and rationals and reals and so on. Okay, so if you've seen this before, great, it should sort of look familiar, but really all we're going to be focusing on for this first module are the whole numbers. Okay, this little circle in here, this group of numbers. So the whole numbers start at 0 and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. There's no fractions or decimals in them, but they start at 0 and they continue on forever without end. So this group of numbers, the dot dot dot, we call that an ellipses, means these numbers go on forever. This group of numbers that starts at 0 without any fractions or decimals and goes forever without end that's called the whole numbers. That's what we're going to focus on for this first module. Okay? And specifically, what we're going to look at first is the place value of a digit that's in a whole number. So the position of each of the digits in our number determines what we call its place value. Again, this hopefully is stuff that sounds familiar. And we have this place value chart. Now, the chart goes a little further, but this is a place value chart that describes positions of digits that we commonly see. Okay, so we commonly see numbers in the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, and so on. So we should be able to read a number and determine the place value for each of the digits in that number. All right, so let's say, for example, I asked you to find, let's say, the place value of the 3 in each of these numbers. Okay, so if we're looking at the number here, 396, 418 is how some of you may want to read that, but let's put it in this place value chart. So if I had to put this in the chart, the 3, 9, 6, 4, 1, 8 would go here. So we would fill it in basically from the right, okay? So we would read this number as 396,418, okay? So if I said to find the place value of the 3, right, that's what we're looking for, the 3 in this number, the 3 is in the 10,000ths place. So the 3 is in the 100,000, sorry. Why did I say 10? Look at that, messing you guys up already. So that is in the 100,000s place. I can read, I swear. So the 3 is in the 100,000s place. Okay, let's try that again, since I goofed that one and I don't want to confuse anybody further. Let's say we're looking at this next number here, and I wanted to find the place value for the 3 in this number. So if I put this in 29139, that is 93,000 and then 192. So if we're looking for, again, the place value of the 3, that is in the thousands place. That's the thousands place of that number. Okay, so let's try one more. Get my eraser going if I was to plop this number in. So we have 6, 6, 8, 5, 7, 2, and then 4, 3, and 5. So that would be 534 here. That's 534 million, right? Million. And then 275,000, and then 866, okay? But what we're looking for here is the place value for the 3. So the place value for the 3 is in the 10 millions place. So that 3 is in the 10 millions place. Okay, and if reading numbers is somewhat of a challenge for you, especially when they get a little larger, I kind of put in here how you read the commas. So every time you're going to put a comma in every 3 digits, and we'll talk about that again in a second, but each of those commas, you're kind of read what's in the leftmost place of that group. So when you read this comma, it's 1,000, this comma is million, and then billion would be higher. So when I'm reading this number, for example, it's 93, then that comma is at the thousands place, so 93,000, and so on. Okay? So place value, and then let's see, the standard form for a whole number. That's just the typical way we write a number. So numbers we were just looking at, like, what was that, 93,000 something. This is the typical way we write a number. We put a comma every 3 digits, just normal writing of numbers. We call that standard form, okay? The commas, again, they're separating digits into groups of 3, starting from the right. And each of those groups is referred to as a period. So what we put in the place value chart was the first 4 periods. So the ones is the first period, thousands would be the second period, millions or the third period, billions or the fourth period. And again, each period just represents a group of 3. And let's see. Again, you're reading the end of that period with each of the commas. Okay, so when we're trying to write out a whole number in words, what we want to do is write the number for each period, followed by the name for the period. Okay, so the number for the period followed by the name for the period. I'll show you with an example in just a second. The ones period is not one that we typically read or write, and it's proper to hyphenate. Hyphenate the first 2 places in each period. So if we had like 20, if we were writing a number like 26, that's the first 2 places in that period, we would try to hyphenate that when we were putting it out in words. Or if we had 126,000 here, we would hyphenate the 26, putting that out in words. Or if it was here, right, the first 2 digits in each of those periods, we generally will hyphenate when we're writing it out in words. And we typically do it, but it is improper to use the word "and" when we are reading or writing our numbers. So sometimes we would hear people say, this is 27,034. We don't want to use that word "and" with a 34. We typically use the word "and" for mixed numbers. Like if we saw 3 and then a half like this is a mixed number, we'd say 3 and a half. But we typically don't do that for, it's improper to do that for whole numbers, okay? So we're going to try to read these numbers. We put the number and then the period. So for example, in this number here, so this is a 1 in the billions period, so we would say 1 billion. And then here we have 83, and that's in the millions period, so we would say 83 million. And then we have 664, so 664, and that is in the thousands period, so 664,000. And then we have color 500 in the ones place, so we would say 500. But we typically don't put the ones period in that label. Now, I just wanted to start there. Technically, we should be writing out the 1, the 83, the 664, and the 500. So I'm going to go one more step here. So we're going to say 1 billion 83, which we're going to hyphenate because those are the first 2 digits in that period, million. And then I'm going to run out of space. And we're going to say 664,000. 664, we're going to hyphenate there, 1,000. And lastly, 500. Okay, so this was like step 1. And this is technically the final answer here. Okay, so that was a long one. Let's try another. So number 5 here, this is 27, and that is in the thousands period, so 27,000. And then this is 34 in the ones period, so we're going to say 34. Now just to write that out, that's going to be 27 hyphenated, 27 hyphenated, 1,000, 34. Again, hyphenated with those first 2 digits in each of the periods. Again, this is one version of the answer. This is a second version of the answer. The second one is technically expanded all the way out, or written all the way out, so that's the better of the answers there. I just wanted to take you step by step. So let me go ahead and box this in. This is the answer, and if you could write that all in one line vertically, awesome. I just can't fit it here. So let's box this one in as our correct answer here as well. Okay, so we should be able to write out in words our number, and then we should be able to work in reverse. If the number is written out for us, we should be able to put it back into standard form. So 9,000 means we're going to have 9 in the second period, in the thousands period, and then 300 and, let's see, 386 in the ones period means 386. Okay, or if we had 2 million, that's going to be 2 in the millions place. 564,000, 564 in the thousands period there. And then 350, 300, and I said and. We commonly do it, it's not proper, but 350 in the ones period, so 350. And I did it again, 350. All right, hopefully you're not like me, and that won't be too hard of a or too bad of a habit for you to break. Okay, now let's look at the last little piece here. That's writing a number in expanded form. So standard form is the normal way to write the number. The expanded form is for you to actually see what this number is made of. The expanded form, in the expanded form, the place value of a digit can be used to write a number in, again, expanded form. And what we do is we show each digit with its place value. And let me show you. So when we are reading this 5, for instance, this 5 we know is in the thousands place, so it represents 5,000. And the 6 is in the hundreds place, so it represents 600. And the 7 represents the tens place, so that's 70, that's 7 tens. And then, oops, make sure I keep going with my arrow concept here. Lastly, we have the 2 that's in the ones place, so that represents just a 2 in the ones place. And then expanded form, you put each of those digits with its place value, and technically, the sum of those digits makes our number in standard form. So if we added up the expansion, we would get back to that standard form. Okay, so here we would say that this is going to be 2 in the millions place. So 2 million, oops, gosh, 2, 3 plus, we have 7. That is in the hundred thousands place. So 700,000 plus, we have nothing in the 10,000s place, so we can skip that, but we have 6 in the thousands place. So 6 in the thousands place, plus we have 4 in the hundreds place, plus, I'm going to run out of colors. We got another 4 in the tens place, so 4 tens makes 40. And then lastly, we've got a 9 in the ones place, and that would be the expanded form of that. Again, if you add all those up, you're going to get back to the standard form of that number. Okay, so just some basics for today. Hopefully all of that makes sense. You've got a few problems to work on in your practice assignment in Canvas. If you find yourself struggling or needing some extra help, then just reach out. All right, until next time, take care.